Salute, the streets are buzzing. Landry Shamet is back on a non-guaranteed deal for training camp. Garrison Mathews, the sharpshooter veteran, is also coming in to training camp. And the dominoes have finally fallen, man, as the Knicks look to round out their roster ahead of a huge season with championship or bust expectations. We've got a poll in the chat. How do you feel about this move with Landry? Is it about time? Are you not fussed? Did you want the Knicks to bring in someone else? We've got plenty to talk about tonight as we react to Landry Shamet coming back. Josh Hart is happy, and the squad continues their vibes from last season. And the New York Knicks bring in Billy Lang. Player development, big role, and the Knicks prioritize developing their younger players. So we've got lots to talk about in that regard. We'll go through some highlights. Garrison Mathews going to battle it out for a spot right now in training camp, man. Around the corner, we're definitely ramping things up, and we're starting to buzz with the live chat, Q&A. Give us your thoughts, your questions. You know what it is. We always shout you guys out, man. I want to hear your thoughts right now. Apocalypse Now says we got Shamet back. Let's go. Johnny, what's good? Great to see ya. Replay Squad, salute. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And it's always great to have you with us. Join us in the live chat and smash that like button. Would really appreciate it. But want to hear from you guys in the poll in the chat right now. How do you feel about this move with Landry coming back? Right. Stefan Bondi also reports, as I say, Garrison Mathews, the sharpshooting veteran, is coming in on a non-guaranteed deal as well. So both deals are non-guaranteed coming in for camp, and the New York Knicks only have spot for one of them. We can only sign one veteran, so only one of these guys is going to get that spot, right? It's interesting that they're both shooting guards, they're both sharpshooters, and I think the Knicks organization obviously prioritized and felt like, you know, we need some shooting. We need another guy that can come in and space the floor out. Garrison Mathews is an excellent corner shooter, as we're going to take a look at this graph as well. Earlier in the summer, Owen Phillips posted this out on X, right? In terms of corner three-point shooting, that's what the Knicks are prioritizing right now, man. Garrison Mathews was #1 last season, man. But the lead story is obviously Landry Shamet, right? And we're going to talk about his fit with the squad. Well, we already know what he was able to do last season, right? Is he going to get 80 minutes? Is this just an insurance ad? Either way, we had to fill that spot with a vet, and the dominoes started to fall a couple of days ago. Ben Simmons, you know, some more news surfaced after our last stream that basically, you know, the Knicks denied offering him a vet deal. His agent, Bernie Lee, dumped him, and the rest is history, right? Ben Simmons' career right now is basically all but over in terms of the NBA. But the Knicks are looking at some fresh bodies, you know, younger guys. I like Landry, what he did last season. You know, he's only 28. And no surprise, Ian Begley posts that Shamet had options, you know. We always hear this when the dust settles, but yeah, I don't doubt that Landry had some options, but I do think that the Knicks spot is probably his best chance at getting some minutes. Ian says Landry had other options, but prioritized continuity in returning to the Knicks. He wanted to return to the locker room that he liked and to help the Knicks compete for a title. So you like to hear that. Shamet and the Knicks agree on a 1-year deal. The Knicks have enough room still for that rookie vet minimum spot, which is still on hold right now. We had some quotes from Mohamed Diawara saying that he'll take whatever he gets. He'll take a two-way, he'll take a vet spot, he'll take a G League spot, he'll take a camp spot. But I do think that Diawara is still the favorite, the leader in the clubhouse, to take that vet rookie spot. But the veteran final spot looks like it's going to go to Shamet. It is a non-guaranteed deal, though, So that does give the Knicks a ton of flexibility. So I think that is big time. Great work from Leon Rose, Brock Aller, and the crew as always. It's never hurts to have that flexibility. You just never know if a guy shakes loose later. You could cut Landry, you could add him again later in the season. I mean, these guys know what they're doing. But for right now, he's going to come into camp, and obviously he's the leader to take that final 13th spot. The 14th spot's going to be the rookie minimum. Ernest says, "I'm feeling this move. What's up?" Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it as well. Feel good vibes here. I'm just ready for the season to start. I didn't feel like any of these guys are going to be in the rotation from the beginning because we've done a hell of a job, and I think we could kind of give our overall off-season grades tonight. Apocalypse now says, "I'm happy as hell. We got Shamet back. It was huge for us in the last couple of weeks of the regular season and in the Pacers series." Yeah, man. Preach. I feel like he kind of secured that spot, then and there. Anytime you can go from situational and be thrown into the fire and produce, that bodes well for your chances, to get back on the squad or to get another job. And I think, there was a lot of ESPN and TNT analysts were saying, Tibbs should have played these guys a little bit earlier. And I agreed with them at the time. I thought Landry, after he started to rehab and get back right, and the shoulder started to look better, the shot started to fall. And I thought he could have given us something a little bit earlier, but the past is the past right now. And yeah, I would much rather give this spot to a guy who's only 28, 29, can't do a whole lot in terms of creating and putting the ball on the floor, but, he's a younger guy who's going to stay healthy for the most part, outside of that freak, shoulder injury where he fell awkwardly. But if that never happened, I mean, we would have had Landry for the entire season. But obviously he worked really hard. He was a professional, got back right. He was out from November all the way through till I think it was February, March. He got back on the squad, started to get some spot minutes. Johnny says as exciting as laundry. Always with a play on words, my guy Johnny. We're also going to talk a lot about this tonight because the Knicks made a pretty big hire in terms of development personnel. Former St. Joe's head coach Billy Lang spent some time at Villanova, spent some time at Philadelphia as well. The Knicks are going to prioritize player development even further and spending more resources to get the best in the industry. And I think this is going to prove to be a big hire, in the long term, because now we look at the roster and it's close to being finalized as we have Landry Shamet now officially on the graphic, and the 14 guys, assuming Diawara ends up being the rookie guy. That is what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. But as I've talked about a lot this offseason, the fact that we've brought in a lot of young talent with Diawara, Dink Pate, Najee, McCullough, and some of last year's rookies with Kolek, Huck Porty, and Dardier, the Knicks are up against that second apron, right? So how else can you improve? How can you look to get better on the margins or even further? Is to develop the guys that you've got, but also keep looking at what else is out there. And hope that we can continue to find these Dink Pates and maybe, the next undrafted Lynn Sanity or, the next up-and-coming kid out of the G League, out of college as well. And obviously the networks, the scouts that Billy Lang is going to have, the information that he's going to bring to the organization, I think is going to be huge over the long haul. So I tip my cap to Leon Rose in the front office and the Knicks organization. How do you guys feel about that right now? We're prioritizing youth, prioritizing the future as well as trying to compete for a championship today, right? You can do two things at the same time, fam. You can compete for a championship, but you've also got to look at, developing the talent that is around us, right? As we have here, some of the best highlights, the moments that Landry Shamet gave us, man. Look at that pesky defense. Expect nothing less from Landry, who continues to stay hungry. I mean, non-guaranteed deal. As Ian Begley has reported, he's turned down other offers. So respect to Landry. He talked about last year that he loves New York City first and foremost. He loves the city, and he would prefer to stay in the city rather than go anywhere. And his actions, mirrored that. He could have taken a deal earlier in free agency, but he stayed patient. And a round of applause for Landry, because he stayed loyal. I think he could have taken a deal elsewhere for sure, and it must have been frustrating to kind of wait this late in free agency, but he's finally got his deal, but it's a non-guaranteed deal. So he's going to continue to stay hungry, man, each and every day, waiting for his next meal ticket out here. As Yuri Ark, my guy, comes through the building, salute, says, but as it stands, Landry is on a non-guaranteed contract. Yep. So, yeah, he'll compete for the spot. I think he'll be the favorite. But we're going to look at Garrison Mathews up next. And look, the Knicks will never rest on their laurels. They're bringing in competition, which is great. I mean, it's championship or bust to many. And, whilst I kind of try to move away from bold, proclamations before the season's even began, it's hard to ignore the fact that this is a season where we need to try to win it. We need to get to the finals. We need to win the championship. The following season, some other guys are going to come back, and 1 year in the NBA is a long time. So this is a huge season ahead, and the Knicks just are not going to rest on their laurels, right? Getting some veterans. I was surprised maybe the Malcolm Brogdon thing. I don't know what else is happening with him. Maybe he's looking to sign a deal somewhere else. You got Al Horford still waiting to sign on the dotted line, waiting for the Kuminga domino to fall as well. Quentin Grimes deal, he's waiting for his deal. But yeah, it's interesting, as I said, guys. We're looking at two sharpshooters that are compete for the spot. And for those that are unfamiliar with Garrison Mathews, most recently on the Atlanta Hawks, right? I think spent a little bit of time with Philly and the Houston Rockets. You see here as well. He's a 38% three-point shooter for his career, is Garrison Mathews. Man, he's not going to do much else, right? He's not really going to defend, but he's a great off-ball shooter, great movement shooter as well, and elite corner shooter as well, which is exactly what the Knicks are trying to do right now. But yeah, you can't leave this guy open, man. See, infinite range, contested, deep threes off of movement, man, is what Garrison Mathews is going to bring to the table, man. Hey, could he be the next Novocaine? Either way, I think he's going to compete with Landry in camp, and he's going to be a non-guaranteed deal as well. Right, but I like it. He's a veteran. He's a plug-and-play guy, and he could definitely play in the second unit if some injuries were to happen. He's going to push maybe Dardier. Hopefully Dardier's three-point shot comes along as well. Continue to work on our three-point shooting. Here's a big-time game that Garrison had with the Wiz as well. He's a bit of a journeyman. 28 points, career high for Garrison Mathews. This is going back, I think, 3-4 years ago. As he looks a lot younger there, but yeah, no hesitation. Catch and shoot. What's up, chat? I see you coming through. Daniel Berry. Happy Thursday night to everybody. Hope you've had a blessed week. Yuri Ark also says Leon has made a killing with so little cap space. Yeah, now's the time to throw in your grades. The off season basically is it now. with Ty on the situation. I'm going to give it an A, man. I think given little cap space that we had, we've made great moves off the court, great moves on the court. I'm going to give this offseason an A, right? Obviously, draft night, we're going to wait and see what happens, and how it all plays out with the picks that we made. But look, I love the Dink Pate move. High upside, obviously. And some of the other pickups with Diawara. Wait to see how that plays out. But all else, getting Clarkson, Yabusele, and obviously the coaching staff, Chris Gent, Mike Brown, making all these moves with Billy Lang. I'm going to give it an A. That's my grade. The Autism Boy Cottage, 81. Great to see you. Salute. Yuri Art goes B+. Yep. I could feel that. I feel like we need to see some other moves play out in terms of when the games begin. And speaking of the games, man, training camp is going to start in a few weeks, and then it'll be on to pre-season, man. First game in pre-season, Abu Dhabi, on October 2nd, fam, against Philly. 2 road games against Philly in Abu Dhabi. But yeah, you see these you see these other names on here, fam. Seth Curry is 3rd on this list. Malik Beasley is still out there. As I mentioned before, I think smart move giving these guys a non-guaranteed deal. No disrespect to them. I think Landry deserves a fully guaranteed deal. But you got to stay flexible, fam. You got to stay flexible. And who knows if Beasley or another name might pop up at some point. Right? I mean, Isaiah Joe, what a great pickup he showed to be with Oklahoma last season, coming in 2nd. But Garrison Mathews, I mean, the Knicks are an analytic-driven team right now, and we're kind of seeing it. Bringing in these 2 guys with the 14th spot that can drain those corner threes. Pablo says Kolek better have a good training camp, else he's on the road. I think the time is now for Tyler Kolek. Yeah, and given the fact that we haven't brought in a Malcolm Brogdon, I think there's a clear pathway for Kolek to make a case. If one of the backup guards goes down, I mean, you'd think Kolek is the next guy up. So yeah, he has to really step up in a major way. And yeah, so yeah, great comments. The chat's on fire tonight. Salute. Yuri says, will you be doing a preseason post game? Absolutely, we will, and we'll definitely continue to chop up training camp and the latest news that comes through. We always keep the streets buzzing. John in the building, salute, says for the 15th spot, we have to wait to sign the player to do that during the season, right? Yes, we do. We are limited financially now. We can't add a 15th guy and still be below the second apron. We'll have to wait into the season. I kind of feel like it's going to be around the All-Star weekend. After the All-Star weekend, we might have enough money to add a 15th guy, kind of like what we did with PJ Tucker. And obviously we were looking at adding some other guys at that point as well. So, but having Landry on a non-guaranteed deal, that just means at some point along the road, if a better option becomes available, man, as cold as it seems, it's championship or bust, and we've got to keep the options open right now. Non-guaranteed deals are very, very helpful, especially in a trade. We need healthy competition, and I do think that Kolek has to really show this new coaching staff what he can do. He's 24 now. Is his ceiling going to get any higher? No, it's not. Can his floor get higher right now? It can. I think the rookie year he didn't really get many opportunities. In fairness to TKO, but if and when his number gets called, man, he has to be ready. He has to be ready and to come in and produce. Now, interesting bit of news for y'all guys is that Jake Fisher reported the other day, not this season, but next season, the salary cap looks like it's going to increase slightly from the projection of 165 million to 166 million, right? You guys might be thinking, oh, 1 million, big deal. Well, 1 million can make a pretty significant deal when you're up against the second apron. So this could mean we give Mitchell Robinson an extra million, in free agency or his extension, and be able to stay flexible. So keep an eye out on that. The salary cap is going to go up from the projection. It always goes up, but the projected number was going to be 165, and it looks like it's going to be 166. I know he made a typo. The 2025-26 season. What Jake actually means is the 26-27 season. But yeah, obviously the Mitchell Robinson extension is something to turn our focus onto now, guys. What are your thoughts on Mitchell Robinson and him being the next guy? We've extended McCall, and we've got the core back. What's up with Mitch? Are we going to wait into the season and see how it plays out? The Autism Boy Cottage says, do you 100% think the Knicks team in 25-26 can reach the playoffs finals? I think we can make the finals. Fam, best believe that I think we have probably the deepest squad since 99, maybe since 2013 with all those vets. Give us your thoughts. Is this our deepest squad since what year? As I bring it up, I mean, I know some Knick fans that want Dink Pate to get rotation minutes from the get-go. You could make a case about McCullough, who's a mature, sophomore coming in now. He's like 25. He was the best player on Kansas 2 years ago, which was the number one ranked team in the country. So, a lot of these guys can produce if you give them minutes. It's just, when are these minutes going to come from? I don't envy Mike Brown in terms of he's going to have a lot of decisions to make. Some good decisions to make in terms of competition right now. But we all know that the season's a grind. It's 82 games. I'll be looking at it from a positive standpoint where we can keep guys' minutes down. We can rest some guys on the second night of a back-to-back. I mean, we have the squad to, blow the doors off a lot of these teams. If you're looking at Charlotte, you're looking at teams like Washington. I mean, we probably don't even need to play. Trying to be as respectful as I can. We probably don't need to play some of our main guys. If Mike Brown is as good of a coach as he can be, and putting these guys in the best position to succeed, we shouldn't be playing like the way Tibbs played, giving these guys 42 minutes and, having to win on a buzzer beater, against Charlotte on the second night of a back-to-back, and all of us are sitting at home, man, with our blood pressure up and our heart pills in hand right now. That's not how a contender should be moving, man. An NBA championship contender should be blowing these teams away. They should be feasting on some of these lesser opponents. Now, so the positive selling point is that we've got a lot of depth. Let's not run these guys into the ground, man. We don't need Karl Anthony Towns to be playing 40 minutes. I don't need Brunson to be ball dominant 39 minutes and scoring 35 points against Charlotte or, the Pelicans and all of that. We need to get the ball moving. We need to focus and be unpredictable and give these other guys a chance, man. Give Kolek a chance. Give Dardier a chance, man. They're hungry. Yet Yuri says if you handed out that guaranteed contract to Landry with no competition, then everyone will expect the Knicks to hand them out like candy. Yeah, we need competition, baby, like you said. But I appreciate Landry's loyalty. He definitely earned that, opportunity last playoffs. That was under Thibodeau. And reports suggest that Thibodeau was a huge fan of Landry. But I do think there's a lot of similarities between Mike Brown and Tibbs. You know, they are kind of very similar in some ways. Very disciplinary, very structured, very well, I'm not going to say old school because Mike Brown is a little bit more flexible. But yeah, you guys know what I mean. Prezi the boss salute. Um, The Autism Boy Cottage 81 says Dwayne Casey or Mike Brown, which NBA coach was better? Dwayne Casey definitely had a good run, and he won that Coach of the Year, and then he got fired as well. So, yeah, I think they're very similar in ways, I like Dwayne Casey, but I'm going to rock with our guy, Mike Brown. I think I'm going to give Mike Brown the edge. Mike Brown gets the edge for me. I mean, the longevity. He's been in some tough situations, coaching LeBron with Cleveland. I mean, that was a very average roster, if we're being honest. It's not like the roster that, they got later with Ty Lue. But yeah, this is definitely the best roster that Mike Brown's ever had. And, there's going to be some pressure on him, as there should be. As much as he's excited to take this job, man, you can't mess around. We ain't here to play around. We're here to try to seize this opportunity and break that championship drought. And sometimes these windows of opportunity, they don't come along very often, man. As, we've proven, we've had to wait this long, man. And the East is wide open. So here, you also see Josh Hart react. Say, yeah, Lan. So this tells me a lot. This tells me that, he has the respect of his teammates. They appreciate what Landry was able to give last postseason. But also that, Landry's been keeping connections, been staying close to these guys. They did go on a deep playoff run. Landry's been staying around in the city. He's been doing some of his photography, taking snaps at the US Open. Staying active. But, one thing that I wish for Landry is that he just stays healthy, because who knows what last season could have been for him if he didn't dislocate his shoulder, man, on the final game of preseason. I mean, that was brutal. That was a brutal setback for Landry Shamet. But you know what? He overcame. He overcame that, which speaks a lot. But I like the way we're moving, man. It's like we signed Landry and we signed Garrison Mathews, man, on the same day. So we ain't giving Landry Shamet a second to breathe. It's like, yep, you're going to get a non-guaranteed spot. But guess what? You're also competing against this other sharpshooter. And may the best man win. Prezi says, I'm just happy we don't have to talk about what's his name again. Yep, you said it. Leon strikes again with another savvy move. I wonder who else is going to be signed in Exhibit 9 or 10 contracts. Yeah, Prezi, I said this last stream, but one of the reasons why we haven't confirmed the rookie exception spot is because I got a feeling we're doing some kind of cap gymnastics right now. And what that is we can offer all of these guys Exhibit 10s, which for those that are unfamiliar, an Exhibit 10 contract is basically a training camp deal, unguaranteed, just for training camp. But it also gives those guys 50 grand or up to 50 grand. So what that means is we can basically give all these guys 50 grand. Not maybe we know who we want to keep and who we want to let go, but you give all these guys 50 grand, you keep them hungry, and that way whoever doesn't make the squad, you can send them to Westchester, and they can earn a little bit of extra bread. but also for that rookie exception guy, if it's Diawara, for example, we can give him the 50 grand Exhibit 10, and when training camp is over, we can then sign him to the rookie exception deal, and he gets, you know, the deal on top of that, the Exhibit 10, so he gets more money, and the Exhibit 10 doesn't count against the salary cap, right? So it's not much, but it's a little bit of extra way to say, hey, we're going to pay you as much as we possibly can, you know. So that's how that all plays out, and that's why I think we're keeping these spots open right now. But yeah, in terms of that name, Ben Simmons, I mean, I kind of feel ashamed that I kind of entertained that, but look, it is what it is, you know. I thought the man was going to be hungry to try to stay back in the league. Right now, man, he just doesn't seem motivated, whether it's health related, physically or mentally, whether or not he just, you know, he's hoping for his dream scenario, which is maybe one of the LA teams. Who knows? But who cares? Right now, we've got Landry Shamet in the house. We had the block party in Central Park. Man, that looked like it was fun. Let us know if you were there in the building for that. We heard from Jordan Clarkson, the first Knick that we signed, free agent this summer, and yeah, it was good vibes. Jordan Clarkson sounded super hyped to go from Utah all the way to this squad, and he's going to play a huge role. Is Jordan Clarkson, man? I think he's going to play 20 to 25 minutes a night plus off the bench, and obviously if there's an injury to one of the guys in the backcourt, he will play more. And Yabusele, the second free agent signing, is going to play up to 30 minutes a night, possibly. And we can keep Mitchell Robinson's minutes, you know, to an optimum level, and maybe keep Karl Anthony Towns' minutes down throughout the regular season. You know, Yabusele obviously got knocked out of Eurobasket. He showed a little bit of frustration, which is all good for me because, you know, he shows how much of a competitor that he is. But he was left dissatisfied with his country's efforts after crashing out of Eurobasket. But that just means that he can get over to New York City, and he can obviously start these voluntary workouts and get a little bit of rest as well. It has been a longer off season for him. Is JB better than Donovan Mitchell? You know, that's another great question, my guy. The Autism Boy Cottage 81. Jalen Brunson is clear of Donovan Mitchell. You know, for the main reason for me is playoff proven, playoff performer, and Donovan Mitchell's had some amazing playoff games, but I mean, Jalen Brunson is up there with three other guys, fam, in NBA history, fam. It's Shea, it's LeBron, and it's MJ, and it's our Jalen Brunson. So as far as I'm concerned, fam, he clears Donovan Mitchell. But Donovan Mitchell's a hell of a player, man. I think he will be a Hall of Famer, Donovan Mitchell, and I obviously think Jalen Brunson will be in the Hall of Fame as well. Once again, salute to Melo for making the Hall of Fame. What else have we not touched on? Yeah, so as Ian Begley said, they prioritize continuity. And I think in an off-season with a lot of change to the coaching staff, change to some of the playing roster, I think it's a good idea to keep Landry Shamet back. You know, I would have probably gone Malcolm Brogdon if he was available, but maybe he wasn't. So I think the next best option was Landry at this current juncture. You need some movement shooters. You need some guys that are going to be able to D up and provide that energy, provide a spark off the bench, you know, when they get that opportunity. And look, Landry's patient. He's not going to be a locker room, you know, malcontent. He's, you know, patient, waits for his opportunities, and, you know, he comes in ready. He D's up. He spaces the floor out, too. Um, and he wanted to be here. He wanted to come back, and that's key. Um, he wanted to return to a locker room he liked to help the New York Knicks compete for a title. And this is the guy in his prime, man. So he could have been looking for the biggest bread possible, and he took us. So salute to Landry. Johnny says Ben Simmons showed us who he is many times before and showed us, who he is now. I think, we definitely moved past that. I think maybe he had a couple of fans in the organization. Maybe Mike Brown was interested in Ben Simmons, but that's a thing of the past right now. We got our guy. But look, you could also look at it like Ben Simmons could have taken minutes away from Dink Pate or Dardier. I said this last stream, Johnny. I think Dink Pate could theoretically do anything that we wanted Ben Simmons to do. He's 6'8", 6'9", can handle the rock, and by all accounts from Summer League could shoot the three ball a hell of a lot better than Ben Simmons could ever shoot. So, we bring in Billy Lang. We got a younger-minded coach that's more flexible. I'm going to predict that we see a lot more of our youth this regular season. Postseason, I don't know. I'm sure Mike Brown is going to settle on a firm playoff rotation. But during the regular season, I think he's going to be a lot more open to riding the hot hand. He did play Malik Monk, obviously a lot more minutes off the bench. He started some of the games. I do think it's going to be great, healthy competition, but we got to keep developing. There might be a big free agent hit the market, and we might need to pull off a blockbuster again, and that might open up some open spots for guys to step up. You just never know, right? Let's say by trade deadline or by next summer, Giannis, demands a trade. And we see where things are at. Obviously, hopefully we win the championship this year. But I think at some point, some of our young guys are going to have to step up as we inch closer to the second, exceeding the second apron. And I think player development is going to be so key, right? So let us know your thoughts on this acquisition, right? I think this solidifies the offseason as an A grade for me, as Billy Lang comes in with a big-time role, man. Leading player development with the organization. Johnny says Dink over Ben any day. Pablo says Ben Simmons BS wasn't ready for New York psychologically. If Philly was a problem, man, he sure ain't ready for New York. Yeah, most definitely, I kind of feel like, why didn't we just move on earlier? All you need to do is talk to the player once and you can gauge whether or not they're really into it. But we join a long list of other teams that are frustrated with Simmons anyways. If you're a Brooklyn fan, Philly fan, some of the fans of these other teams, you're already, you're done with Ben Simmons, right? And I think the league is probably done with him right now. Probably going to hear any day that he signs with a team in Europe, man, or maybe a team in Japan or something like that. Prezi says that big 14 on the graphic is beastly. This is how our squad will look soon after all the gymnastics are done. Who do you think will be the eventual 15th man? That's a very interesting question, man. Obviously, the 15th guy can come later in the season. I think it could be a big. We're obviously waiting for the Mitchell Robinson extension, and we'll see. Huck Porty, I'm not doubting Huck Porty's upside. I'm not going to doubt his potential. But one thing that he has to prove to us is that he can stay healthy, if he plays some meaningful minutes, right? He's had 2 meniscus injuries. So do we look at maybe adding one more big as the season goes? another stretch big. Maybe look at a Trey Lyles. We could look at a trade maybe at the deadline if Tyler Kolek hasn't quite taken advantage of minutes as a ball handler. We might be looking to bring in another guard. Fam. Interestingly, a name that's still out there, I think, is Markel Fultz. He's a guy who's a jumbo point guard who's 6'5". I know some of y'all have been talking about him this summer, and Markel Fultz still, I think, has something to give. But yeah, the shot is obviously a weakness in his game. Yeah, it could go either way, fam. I think we're okay at the wing spot, right? Which is a huge, jump from where we used to be. We used to need as many wings as we possibly can. But where we're at right now is I think we're stacked at the wing spot with Pate now, Diawara, Dardier, McCullough. I still forget about McCullough sometimes, man. In fact, does this make Josh Hart expendable at some point, man? I'm not advocating for it. I'm just asking the question. As Josh Hart is one of the, the elder statesmen on the squad now. He's 30, going to go on 31, right? That's something to pay attention to as the, as the second apron looms, and we have some younger wings come up. But yeah, right now I think we're good at the wing spot. I think you could make a case for a point guard or a big. Brand P in the building says Ben Simmons, yeah, always disappoints us Australians, Aussies as well. He's disappointed a lot of people. And yeah, the Autism Boy says Ben Simmons wasn't ready for Brooklyn anyway, CT. And I'm from New York, where Ben Simmons played in, bro. Yeah, all facts. All facts. And look, I think part of that is hunger as well. You could still fight for the next contract like Landry did. But I think once Ben Simmons reached all NBA levels, once he's getting paid $44 million to sit on the bench, some players just ain't built for it. And I can't say I've ever been in that situation to really understand either. If you're getting paid $44 million to do nothing, not just Ben Simmons, but a lot of players just don't go all out. Look at Zion, right? Zion could be the next cautionary tale, if he doesn't get it together. Fam, these guys are earning so good that sometimes maybe they're just not as motivated to overcome a little injury here or there. Oh yeah, my back's hurting today. Yeah, you know what? I'm not ready to play. Give me another 10 days. And then another 10 days comes up. Oh, you know what? My knee's a bit sore today. I'm not ready to go. And back and forth. But yeah, the fans got to let them know. Right? If you ain't got the backing of the fans, you ain't got nothing. If the fans turn on you in Philly, Brooklyn, New York, wherever, I think the fact that the Clippers didn't even bring Simmons back speaks a lot. Speaks a lot. Because there ain't as much pressure in playing for the Clippers, man. You're playing for the young, stepbrother, right? The fans ain't as vocal as these other big fan bases, right? Another move that the NBA has decided this upcoming season now, implementing a rule change, right? How do y'all feel about this? So now, unsuccessful end of period shot heaves will now be recorded as a missed field goal only for the team, but not for the player's individual stat, right? So let's say, as Josh Hart says, Mikal Bridges, man, he loves to let it fly. Peyton Pritchard is a great one for Boston. He always lets it fly. Steph Curry as well, because those guys are good at it. The Joker as well with the one-handed throw. But yeah, if the shot goes up as a heave, it won't count as the player's field goal any longer, right? But obviously, it's going to change a lot, and it's going to be better because 2 seconds left. We all sometimes feel frustrated that the player doesn't even try to throw the ball up. It could be a 3-point swing. Pablo, yeah, that's something to pay attention to too with Josh Hart, getting older. But I feel better now with no longer Tibbs here. My worry with Tibbs was with Josh Hart, as 31, those knees are going to become more rickety. But I think Hart's going to go back to his normal kind of 6th, 7th man role, which I think where he's best in the league, especially at this age, Now we're in the pace and space age, We did see Josh Hart get exposed in the playoffs. Let's call it a buck, man. He was one of our worst playoff performers in the Indiana series. Gave us a lot of energy and heart and hustle in the Detroit and the Boston series. But yeah, I think we'll definitely be looking at and seeing what's playing out in the market. AP, salute, great to see you. Says every time the NBA makes a rule change, it's usually to target the Knicks. I think we win the ratings, bro. We definitely a team that most even neutrals hate watch. We're the most watched team, basically. Whether you're a fan or whether it's a rival fan, is a hate watch, man. I see Celtic fans, man. They still ain't got over the defeat to New York, man. They're scarred for life. Some of these Boston Celtics fans, man. No one gave us a chance. I mean, we were 0-4 in the regular season. To think that we knocked off a healthy Boston right before Tatum went down, that was definitely a huge step forward for us, on that road to winning that championship, and just showing that we are for real, and the continuity that we have. Apoca Knicks now says no way Simmons was coming here when we all witnessed him pass up that wide open dunk and let himself get punked by a 6'5" Trae Young. Man, that was ugly. That was the height of the ugliness. He was getting spooked. He was shook by shadows of Trae Young out there. Now we just have to hope that Mikal Bridges stays a little bit more aggressive too, because he was caught lacking a few times too, fam, with the fadeaways, right? But he did have a nice throwdown in the Boston series, man. That kind of got us up out of our seat in that Boston series. When Mikal just threw it down with the left hand. I want to see that aggression. But yeah, one thing I like about Mike Brown, I think he's going to be more. He's going to be more, flexible, obviously, but he's going to be more outspoken, right? Mike Brown doesn't. He's not afraid to throw a player under the bus occasionally, right? And not in a derogatory way or to demean one of his players. I think it comes from obviously a disciplinary, mindset. But hey, if a player is not doing as instructed, or if they're not, getting the job done, then you need to let them know. And I do think that Mike Brown is going to be more honest, more open and honest up front with his players. I do think Tibbs had played on some favorites, right? I don't think you could disagree with that. Like Hart might have 5 turnovers in a quarter, as we saw against Indiana, and he's still going to play 38 minutes. Mike Brown, I think he'll get frustrated with some guys if they make, continuous mistakes, and he'll go with the next guy. He'll give another guy an opportunity. So yeah, we'll see how that all plays out and who's going to win the extra trust early, right? I think it's going to be a big season ahead for Pacome Dardier. I think Mohamed Diawara is going to be maybe the surprise player of the season, surprise pickup. Um, my guy Ariel Hukporti, I followed his journey all the way from, NBL, covering him live at some games in the NBL in Australia, scouting him, seeing the Knicks pick him up with one of the final pick in the draft. Last year was a pleasant surprise for many fans. Now he's not really a surprise no more, but I do think Mohamed Diawara could be that surprise this season. Delmar, what's up? Great to see you. No need for apologies, but yeah, great to have you with us. Join the conversation. New York Knicks opting for flexibility, giving Landry Shamet that deal, non-guaranteed. Also, Garrison Mathews, the veteran sharpshooter as well, coming in to help us out and compete at training camp, right? What this also does is it gives these guys the 50 grand. Like I said, Garrison Mathews, camp deal, he'll earn a little bit of money and maybe he'll go to Westchester. I think we're really starting to operate with the Westchester Knicks and the New York Knicks as a whole entity. We're really starting to use the G League as a business, but also an opportunity to develop. Don't forget, we have to sell tickets for Westchester as well. So we give some of these guys an Exhibit 10. Let's say they don't make the big club, like last year with T.J. Warren. He spent most of the year in Westchester, and that put a lot of bums on seats with Westchester. A lot of people were tuning in to watch T.J. Warren with Westchester. This year, we're going to have a lot of the young guys get major burn with the Westchester Knicks. Talking about Diawara, Dink Pate, Kevin McCullough, Tyler Kolek, and all of that. And yeah, as the question came earlier from Prezi, who could be the 15th guy as the season progresses? It could be a guy who's balling out in Westchester. Moses Brown could come back in Westchester and continue to develop. Who else we got out there? We got Bay. Jamal Bay was another one. I think had some good moments out in Westchester as well. But yeah, we got a lot of young guys right now that are going to compete. Yeah, you said it. It's like having a farm system. Yeah, you need to continue to work on that pipeline. Pipeline of talent. And we're bringing in that Billy Lang. He's going to be overseeing all of that, fam, from player development. And the other guy we brought in, Johnny says Diawara has the right attitude and the right skill set. Yeah, and it helps that they don't teach size, Johnny. He's just a phenomenal athlete from what I saw. 6'9", like a Siakam. He's our Siakam, man. He could guard 1 through 5. He's our Siakam, I think. Is Mohamed Diawara, but with pro experience. I actually think Siakam came into the league, as a more raw prospect, out of Cameroon, and then he went to the Raptors. It took him years to really, solidify a spot. I think Diawara he looks like he's still raw, but I think he looks a little more ready than what Siakam was. But yeah, I'm not saying he can become what Siakam is today, because that was a hell of a rise. But if Diawara can be a great rotation player, as a guy picked in the 56 or 58 spot was Diawara. That was great. I like the upside of the pickup. And yeah, Delmar, the depth is key, because this regular season, right? I think we could coast through the first or second round of the playoffs. This year, as in terms of last year, it was a struggle with Detroit and with Boston. But if we can rest some guys throughout the regular season, then that means that we might be more equipped to get through the first couple of rounds of the playoffs, and really, go deeper into the postseason. This means we could also maybe, make a bigger run at that NBA Cup. These guys want to go for that 500 grand. We made the quarterfinals twice of the NBA Cup, fam. We were one win away from Vegas. I think we might want to. Well, we should beat our group. We got Philly, we got Brooklyn, we got Raptors, and I think we got Charlotte, or we got Chicago. Sorry. So I think we're definitely favorites for that NBA Cup in-season tournament, right? And I think each guy got 100 grand last season. If we made it another game further, each guy would have got 200 grand. And then if we won the final, we would have got a banner, fam. We would have hang a banner up. This year we might hang 3 banners up with the Atlantic Division, with the NBA Cup, and hopefully the big boy, the NBA Championship. Just Nick Salute says Shamet is better defensively than Mathews. Yeah, he is definitely a solid two-way player, but it's a good pickup. This Mathews guy is a guy that could just let it fly. Defenses can't lax on this guy, man. 58% from the corner 3. That's insane. You see Seth Curry still out there as well, Malik Beasley. AP says, let's get a new banner. We haven't had one since 2013. Yeah, it's a long time overdue. It's such a long time overdue right now, man. But look, no coincidence. This is the best roster we've had since then. So if you connect all of the dots, we are on the verge of success this season, man. One way or the other. I think we are going to have some type of success in terms of hardware. But yeah, you see the vibes. You see this one. Look at Mikal Bridges back with the extension. These guys look like they're comfortable playing with each other. Keeping another guy coming back to that locker room is going to be good, but also gives us flexibility on the non-guaranteed deal. If you want to sign like a Simmons or a Malik Beasley or a Malcolm Brogdon, they're not going to accept a non-guaranteed deal. I think that's a major difference, and it's significant because it gives you that flexibility. Not saying we're going to cut Shamet. I'm not saying that I want us to cut him later, but you just never know what comes up. And it also helps in trades as well. If you have a salary that you have to throw in to a trade, and that salary is non-guaranteed, where the other team can just cut you, that gives you a bit more flexibility as well in that move, too. Yeah, Shamet was our diamond in the rough. Yeah, I like the fact that he came back and really, he was patient. We were patient with him as well. But yeah, he definitely came in. He came good in the playoffs. Johnny says Tibbs' fascination with winning every game and overusing his best players was his MO. Never seeing the end of the season big picture. Mike Brown and new coaches should have that vision. Yeah. We're in sync. We agree with that same take, Johnny. Definitely a great take. And look, a leopard don't change its spots. I appreciate what Tibbs is all about. He's hard nosed. He brought good culture back. He brought winning back when we badly needed winning, and we were all over the shop. But it got to the point where he didn't see the bigger picture at the end. He kind of got in his own way, where it became all about every single win. When the organization now, as Leon Rose put out that statement, we are singularly focused on winning the championship above all else and prioritizing that. first and foremost. Um, and we're putting plans in place with development and all of that. Salute Shay in the building. Salute. Um, we know we're not getting banners with the Mets and the Liberty. Total collapse. Giants, Jets. I mean, the New York Knicks could be flying the flag. Let's see what happens with the Yankees and the Mets. But yeah, Delmar says the 12th man will be very important this season. Yeah, I think flexibility. You can play so many different lineups now too. I do think the Clarkson Yabusele pickups gave us flexibility in position rotations, but also eating up minutes. Tibbs didn't have enough guys that he felt could eat up minutes, and that's why he had to overplay Hart. But yeah, it was his undoing at times. He could have played Huck Porty a lot more. Let's keep it a buck. Huck Porty was good enough to eat up 10 or 15 minutes at sometimes, but he just didn't go that way. Maybe he didn't see something in practice. Dardier was good enough to eat up some minutes. I think they had to trade Jericho in the end to try to get something back. But then that's what it took for Tibbs to finally give Huck Porty a chance. Shamet could have played a lot more after he got healthy as well. We made that trade for DeLon Wright. DeLon Wright showed how savvy he was. He could have got minutes, much, much earlier than the Indiana series. Yeah, I'm really curious to see how Mike Brown, alters our defense. Offense, I kind of got a good read on what I feel like is going to happen. There's obviously going to be a lot more ball movement, more passing, and more pace and space. Pick and pop, maybe pick and roll with Brunson and Cat, and Brunson off ball a little bit more. But the defense is where I'm most curious to see what Mike Brown does schematically with Cat. Now, if he plays Mitch as his starter at the 5, then I think that is going to kind of work itself out, because you got Mitch back there to anchor the paint, and Cat is probably going to have to come up and be more of a hedging big, or switching defense like we saw against Boston, which worked a lot. Johnny says Huck over the Sims, and then we got improved. Yep, most definitely. I mean, Huck would look at the basket. He's got a touch. He's got that little floater as well, the mid range. With Jericho, it was kind of just a lob threat. Pablo says Tibbs didn't play Precious or DeLon Wright enough. Yeah, I agree with DeLon Wright, but I think Precious could have got some more opportunities as well to eat up some of those minutes. Now, unfortunately, Precious for him hasn't got signed yet, so that's interesting. Interesting to see where Precious ends up, man. It'd be funny if he ends up on Cleveland or Miami or somewhere like that. One of our rivals. DeLon Wright still out there as well. Now, if he doesn't get signed, I would definitely extend an olive branch out to DeLon Wright and get him on a training camp deal. It can't hurt. You never know. Maybe a guy goes down in training camp, not wishing on anybody, but if DeLon Wright is unsigned, just give him a training camp deal. Bring him back in. So he hasn't got signed yet. Russ hasn't got signed. What do y'all think about that, man? Where is the best fit for Russ? Now, I don't want us to pick up Russ. I'm good with that. But is there any team around the league that you think could do with a Russ? Has he burnt all of those bridges right now? I kind of felt like the Denver Nuggets and him was kind of maybe that perfect match. But they don't want him back either. Does he go to Charlotte and maybe mentor LaMelo Ball? Does he go to Chicago and kind of replace Lonzo Ball? I do think maybe Russ goes to Sacramento. They've lost De'Aaron Fox. Maybe he goes there. Maybe he stays out of the league, man. Maybe he retires soon or goes on the big three. And that reminds me, some leaks from the NBA All-Star Weekend coming up, guys. We're going to see a 1v1 tournament, right? That was leaked by Gilbert Arenas, I think, or Tracy McGrady on their pod. That we are going to see a one-on-one tournament at the NBA All-Star Weekend, which is what a lot of fans have been waiting for, a lot of fans have been hoping for to see. And who's going to be the first to step up? Is it going to be Kevin Durant? I think Kevin Durant's going to be one of those guys that's going to step up. I wouldn't want to play Kevin Durant on a 1v1 tournament, man. But I would love to see a Kevin Durant versus, Kevin Durant versus, let's say, Pascal Siakam versus Kevin Durant. That would be cool. I would love to see maybe a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander versus Cade Cunningham. That would be a cool matchup. If he was healthy, a Jalen Brunson, a big body Brunson versus a Tyrese Halliburton, 1v1. I kind of feel like Brunson could body Tyrese, but Tyrese Halliburton would have the length. Let us know your favorite 1v1 matchup that you would love to see at All-Star Weekend, fam. Karl-Anthony Towns versus Joel Embiid. That would be box office, man. Those two have beef as well. Pablo says Miami or Chicago. Yep. Pocket Knicks now says Yabu is definitely an upgrade over Precious. Yeah, I agree. I think Yabu provides way better offense, and we really need that from a big man who can rebound, can put the ball on the floor safely, create a shot, but also space the floor out. I mean, I'm actually really excited to see a Cat Yabusele lineup. Now, defensively, it's probably not going to be pretty, but if you've got some good wing defenders, maybe some adjustable, switchable bigs like wings like OG and Diawara, maybe those guys could switch out onto the other team's big. But a Yabusele, Karl-Anthony Towns lineup, that's going to give you the rebounding, but it's going to give you more spacing as well. It's going to be able to pull their other guys out of the paint. Now, who could forget? At times we made Luke Cornett, we made him look like Wilt Chamberlain at some times. Man, it was crazy to see because we know Luke Cornett, we were a part of his, initiation in the league. The way Luke Cornett was moving in some of those games, man, it was ugly for us because he was just standing in the paint, blocking everything right now because of, he was sagging off of Josh Hart. But if you have a couple of floor spacing bigs, guess what? You ain't going to have Luke Cornett or, Wembanyama and that just standing around in the paint like it's the playground. Johnny says, I like when Knicks rivals pick up Knicks dregs like Miami. Yep. It definitely is it's a fun topic to look at some of these guys, move around the league, man. Delmar says that's going to remind me of the old school one-on-one tournaments, man, on ABC. Yeah, most definitely. And I kind of feel like maybe the Big Three has missed out on that opportunity, man. Yes, Big Three is their bread and butter, but, their niche. But they could also expand and make a 1v1. Don't know if maybe Ice Cube has thought about that. Yeah, man, we all remember your favorite player's favorite player, man. What's his name? Michael Beasley, man. Buckets Beasley. Remember him? He was dubbed the Mellow Light back in the day, man. Him, Prime Mellow versus Prime Michael Beasley would have definitely been box office as a three-way tournament with Kevin Durant maybe and LeBron James. That would have been cool to see. But yeah, I do remember, I think Kevin Durant was asked about Michael Beasley, and he was, same with Melo, he was so hard to guard. He was tough, was Michael Beasley, because he could put the ball on the floor like a guard. He was 6'10". He had handles like a guard as a lefty. He was kind of like a more nimble, skinnier Julius Randle, where he could play as the power forward, body you up, but he could also fade away, hit the step back. He could, take it strong and finish. And he had the nice baseline fadeaway as a lefty. Shares V, salute, Knicks family. Everyone in the building rocking out tonight. Look forward to our training camp preview, fam. Definitely within the next week, we are going to dive into the lineups, go through all our predictions and preview training camp and pre-season as we're getting things popping right now. Our 14 guys are basically locked in. I don't expect Garrison Mathews to supplant Landry Shamet, but you just never know. Competition is good. Kind of like last year, we had, what's his name? Chuma Okeke. We had Chuma Okeke come in. He was kind of the guy on the outside looking in, but he was there, and he went to Westchester. Johnny says Diawara gives Knicks opportunity to have a huge lineup. Man, I'm just excited to see him next to OG as well. Even Hart, for that matter. I know maybe the spacing is not going to be too great, but think of length of McCall, Hart, Diawara, OG Anunoby. I mean, they're jumbo switchable wings. I'm definitely not sleeping on Huck Porty, man. Huck Porty brought that rim protection, man. What he averaged like over a block per 36. One or two blocks per 36 minutes did Huck Porty, man. Once he really gets a run of games and consistency, I think Huck Porty is going to be definitely a big that we look to tie down. He really moves his feet really well for a throwback kind of bigger guy. Huck Porty is more of that traditional center, but he definitely moves his feet better than some of those other bigs, and he's got that little soft touch. But I do think the Clarkson Yabusele pickups were exactly what we need, and yeah, I'm ready to get it going, guys. I'm excited. Gonna wrap this thing up tonight. Love chopping it up, and we'll be back in a few days, fam. Have a blessed weekend. Hopefully the Giants and the Jets can get some redemption, right? Yankees and Mets. But the New York Knicks, man, are about to come to play this season, man. We have to see some success. And let's hope that this is the year, right? With the weakened East, the moves we've made, the new coach. We've got a kind of a new coach bounce, they say, and some buzz in the building. Where is Tibbs going to end up? Right, I do think a team is going to snap Tibbs up as an assistant, so that'll be interesting to see, man. There could be some rivalry, man. Could you imagine if Indiana, for example, out of the blue, just gave Tibbs an assistant role, man, next to Carlisle? That'd be crazy. Could you imagine if Eric Spoelstra brings his buddy in from Team USA and has Tibbs on the sidelines with Miami? Man, that would be crazy as well. What's going to happen with this investigation? We haven't really talked about that much tonight, but we'll let that play out and let the dust settle. It does look like they're guilty, man. Innocent until proven guilty. Right now, they've got to prove their case. Looks like they've got to prove their innocence. Right now, with Kawhi Leonard, man, getting payments for a no-show job, which is crazy right now, man. See everyone in the building rocking out tonight. Appreciate ya. Take it easy. Stay blessed. And big up. Let's go Knicks.